that agency piece, where both for kids, and for teachers, is so powerful. To have the freedom to shape your craft the way that you're passionate about, and the way that meets the needs with kids in a synchronous effort is really powerful.
This week on the Truly Modern School podcast, we're excited to bring you part 2 of our mini-series, The Core of Innovation.
Yeah, we're going to finish up with our chat with Don Macpherson and Paul McKenzie and their discussion of everything going on in Thames Valley. So before we started recording today, we were talking about Thames Valley versus a bunch of other districts. What are some of those things that we are doing in Thames Valley that you guys are excited about compared to when you were talking about traveling to BC and everybody hears about the Finland model? What are some of those things that we are doing really well here?
Well, I'll start. I think there are so many things I would love to grab. I think I would probably say that one of the most inspiring things that I have ever seen in my career is the impact of that sort of co-teaching, co-learning environment. Certainly the area of subject integration is not new. And some of the work around experiential learning, I think we're just on the cusp of that. That has exciting possibilities. I think we're just still kind of tinkering with that a little bit, and probably Don will talk a little bit about that. But what has been just mind-blowingly awesome, and I get goosebumps even talking about it, is just the exchange and the interaction of professionals deeply invested in their craft, and just the exploration and the possibility of it, and that's been truly inspiring for me. I think what we're trying to figure out is that we've got a lot of the early kind of adopter people that jumped right into this, and they're really excited about it, and I think they're trying to figure out ways to share this with others. So I think our biggest thing now is trying to explain how this can be easier for other people to do and get them involved in these kinds of things. But that for me has been the part that's really been exciting, and I think that that's also the thing that we haven't necessarily seen in other places, because we're trying to learn and find out who's ahead of us. Mm-hmm. Right, and there's plenty of things that we can look to learn from, but that's the one thing I think that has been unique and distinct, and what we're learning about right now a lot.
Well, you and Rick, Paul, have boiled down as we think about these projects. What are the underpinning key factors that make these things successful? And they had boiled them down to agency, expertise, and community, and that agency piece, where both for kids, and for teachers, is so powerful. To have the freedom to shape your craft the way that you're passionate about, and the way that meets the needs with kids in a synchronous effort is really powerful. And I think that done together is what really drives that community piece. And when we see teachers, where you talked about the bond and the sense of having each other's back, and can have the tough conversations and still work really hard together on behalf of kids, it's really powerful. But for me, what are we doing different than other places? I would say it's taking away those barriers and allowing teachers and students the opportunity for agency.
One of the things that Tim and I have learned on our travels talking to people is when you innovate in a transparent way, you radically change a culture in a building very quickly. The students notice, the students are excited, the stakeholders are excited. Tim and I have seen some of the great things happening in schools that transfer down to the elementary level, where innovative grade 9 programs are appointment visits as early as grade 6. Students have talked about the schools that they want to go to in grade 9 because of all the great things that are happening. They've built it as a prize. It's really helped us in secondary dovetail nicely with all of the great things that our colleagues in elementary school are doing as well.
Yeah, so when you think about the young people that are in your lives, what are some of those things that you foresee or you hope that school and education is going to be like for them in the future? Boy, $1 million question here, further away.
Well, for me, I really foresee that each student will have an opportunity to learn in a way that best fits their passion, their love of learning around subject matter that they really care about and can engage in a real way. And so, if for a period of time when they're in secondary school, their experience is embedded, their experience is driven by them, the learner, and is then given application in the community and in very significant experiential learning opportunities. For me, if that's what's happening for students, and we are able to move the teaching and learning in that direction in our board for kids, I'll be thrilled. And I would say that kids in beyond the 21st century will be better off post-secondary.
Paul, one of the phrases that we've used as we've journeyed and met with people is the phrase stakeholder, and that's a phrase that we use for members of our community beyond our direct teaching and learning. A lot of the innovation that's come together through Rethinking School within a school, it's engaged school and students with members of our community in all kinds of unique ways.
That's absolutely true, and I think some of our interesting projects early on have been around how do we put some real-time experience into the projects. So the Greenhouse Academy is a great example of a project that really gave us an opportunity to place the learning inside the context of a real greenhouse business that's been working. We've got an aviation program that is about to take off, I guess, shortly. At Montcalm, which I think is a really interesting example of that. I'm still kind of thinking to the question that Don answered just a few minutes ago, because it speaks to the question that you just asked, because there are going to constantly be, in the next 15 to 20 years, things that are going to emerge that we can't see yet. And I think that if school can be this place that can be adaptive to the ever emerging needs of the world around us, and arm our students with that same adaptive skill set to be able to reframe or reform their learning to different contexts. That agility of mind that is, I think, it's a requirement of creativity, but it's going to be increasingly a requirement of an age where we know, for example, that some of the kids that are going to be going out into the world are going to have 6 to 10 different jobs, possibly. So they're going to need to constantly be able to adapt their skills. I want school to be human, continue to be human. In an age now where there are more things that disconnect us than connect us, school needs to still be that place that can draw together humanity, to have really rich opportunities to talk to one another, to collaborate. Like, collaboration should be a real-time, real-person thing. This is very real for me because I've got 2 grandsons that are 4 months old. So I'm thinking about school for them, and I'm thinking about all of those kinds of things. But I'm also thinking about continuing to bring the best and the brightest inspired educators in front of our kids, because I think that's also the part that we need to do. And so this gets into our teacher training a little bit to create the conditions where they're ready for that adaptability that is the context for our classroom. There was a recent document called World Class that came out through OECD, and there's a segment in it that says, to a great extent, because of the complexities of the world today, large systems it's difficult for large systems to be able to adapt to the complexities of the classroom. But the best place to do it is through great classroom practice. That's the place that we can do it. So the question that Don and I have been playing with is, can we be a big school system but play small? play the small game, and be able to be adaptive at the places and flexible at the places where it matters most. And how do we endow that permission and skill set to make that happen? So I think, hopefully I answered your question, but anyway.
When you go back to page 7 of Rethink, wherein we lay out some criteria for what we view as more effective teaching, it's all about that. It's all about adaptive, flexible teaching, and that will really set kids up well for the future.
Don, we talked about playing small, and we talked about empowering teachers. If there were a teacher listening right now who had a great idea rattling around in their head, Don, what advice would you give to them?
Have one word: yes. It's about yes. I mean, it's and when we think of some of these ideas, they don't always end up in the same way that they were originally envisioned. But starting at yes and saying, let's look at how we can make that work, and finding the threads of it that we can begin with and build on that teacher's vision. Absolutely. If you're out there listening and you're excited about trying something new, we're in. We're all in. And we will support that teacher and their colleagues in their schools and their principals to make it happen where it's good for kids.
So, one of the questions that we always ask our interviewees is, what are some of those projects that are coming up, maybe in your private lives or in our school lives, that you are most looking forward to? What are you excited about moving forward?
Well, this is funny. We were actually talking about this morning. I'm excited about everything all the time. So I can't name one. I just think that, and I sat with some teachers about 2 weeks ago at a pivot day that are in the midst of this. So you had some school folks that were in their second or third run of this, and then you had some people that were kind of kicking the tires, and all in the same room, kind of talking this out a little bit. I think that. That's the stuff that makes me pretty inspired and feel good about our future. Is the projects right now are growing in areas that we could never have anticipated, and in course combinations that wouldn't necessarily have been predictable. And I think the cool part of that is that we didn't superimpose the rules on which subjects could play together. We let this happen through the process of people exploring, and I think that the most exciting part of this is, I think I said earlier, is if we think of a school system as having a delivery muscle, can it also have a discovery muscle? I'm really excited about the workouts we're having with our discovery muscle in this board.
I think it comes down to relationships, and it comes down to trust. And gentlemen, on behalf of everybody who's listening, thanks very much for the trust. Thanks for the chance to do new things to help students out. Don Macpherson, Paul McKenzie, gentlemen, thanks very much for the time.
You're welcome.
What a pleasure.
Lots to unpack from the second part of that conversation with Paul McKenzie and Don Macpherson. Tim Cowell, what jumps out at you?
Yeah, two things right off the bat. One is their optimism for all the great things that are going on in Thames Valley. And second, their passion for the future and what education has moving forward.
They're very quick to acknowledge that the future is an unknown place. It's an unknown place in education. There's lots of great things happening, lots of doors open. They also understand that reality, that the future world is a great unknown. Jobs, skills, the key is the mindset. The key is the growth of the transferable skill.
It's also great to hear them talk about their support that they have for teachers. As a teacher, and you come up with those great ideas, you always want to sort of bounce them off of colleagues or principals, or at this level superintendents. So to hear them say of having or embracing a yes culture is great to hear.
The phrase that we heard is that it starts with great educators, and all through Thames Valley at all levels in lots of different roles. We've got lots of great educators. all with that common mission of helping our students be successful.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we've been trying to do with this podcast, is trying to draw out or bring out some of the great things that are going on here in the school board.
Paul and Don mentioned skill building. The other part that they mentioned that's so important is community. We've heard lots of good stories about all of the great things that happen virtually. There's great things happening with e-learning. There's lots of great things happening in and around technology. But that people-centered focus, that human touch, that emphasis on bringing people together, that's always going to be the most important thing.
Yeah, and Paul drew upon that of seeing collaboration happen in real time, of bringing those people together.
Really great conversation. Again, if you're looking for more great conversations, lots available in our back catalog. Thanks very much for listening.
Yeah, thanks, guys.